Fabulous. Okay, so let's crack on. So we've got a jam-packed webinar this evening, and I just wanted to run through what we're going to cover. So obviously 4 paws, the 4 elements to consider when caring for your cat. And for me, this is really about trying to understand well-being, trying to understand our cats from a different perspective, and to try to help you understand how your energy and your input into your cat's life can make a difference. So we're going to cover the four paws, the 4 elements, so mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual. And I'm also going to share with you a technique that I use to connect with Leo, to enhance my relationship with him and to manage myself and my emotional well-being. So who am I? My name is Julianne Thorne, and I'm the founder of Naturally Cats. So there's many things that I call myself, some of which are holistic cat coach, therapist. I'm an intuitive or an empath. I'm also a healer, an author, and a behaviourist. So I help people when they have problems with their cats, but it's not specifically limited to behaviour issues. I try to help educate a family to enable them to reconnect or to connect with their cat. Because for me, cats aren't just a pet, they are a member of the family, and we need to understand that family member's needs, and we need to ensure that we cater to those needs. So I'm a cat mum. So the top right picture is me and Leo, and that's me giving him his asthma inhaler. It is the puffer on his face. And he has been in our lives for just about 2 years now. And we're all still kind of falling in love and getting to know each other. So we've had him for 2 years, but he still surprises us. Only yesterday, I had another little vole on the floor that he was playing with, not kind of the surprises that I like, but ones that he likes to give. So I am grateful to receive. The bottom picture is my dear sweet girl Pickle, and she was my baby girl. She is my baby girl, but she's in spirit now. I had her for 13 years, and she changed my life. She rocked my world, and she's the reason that Naturally Cats is here today. She was very poorly for very long, and she really inspired me to train in different complementary and alternative treatments, to train in behavior, and to understand cats. She was very grumpy. She was very much a madam, but she was my baby girl and she was my teacher. So as I said, I'm an educator of feline guardians. So I don't call us, I'm a cat mum, but I'm not an owner. I don't own Leo. I don't own cats. I don't believe that any of us own our cats. I believe that we are their guardians and that we are here to guard them whilst they're on the planet and they choose to be with us. We have a duty of care to them. We need to look after them and we need to provide for them as best we can. So I'm on a personal mission, and it's no small feat, to change the world's perspective of cats. So I know that there are people out there that do things that scare cats that they think are funny, and, will dress up cats and all sorts of things that I personally don't sign up to. And I'm not suggesting that everyone needs to have my beliefs, but what I really want to do is to help people wake up, to help them realize how special and sentient and emotional cats can be. And if you take the time to connect with them and to provide for them, the relationship can be astounding. So you'll see on all my webinars, on my classes, on my social media, my hashtag is giving cats a voice, because as much as I talk about educating feline guardians, it's about helping them to understand what they can do to help their cat. And when I usually deal with clients, it's about, as I mentioned, helping the family to connect with their cat. And in order to do that, I need to help provide for their cat. So I need to speak on behalf of the cat. That's what I see my job as. So I'm an interspecies, interpreter. So cat speaks cat, human speaks human, and I'm kind of the glue that goes in between to try to translate, really. So that's a little bit about me. And tonight I wanted to share with you my approach, my perspective, and how I view Leo, and how I try to encourage my clients and my community to see their cats as well. So let's crack on. First paw, mental health. Before I get into this, I just want to, remind you that when you think of a cat, the reason that I use the 4 paws is as a metaphor is because, yes, you can obviously have cats that have 3 paws and still walk and are still well and healthy. But with mental health, with this first paw, it's one of the paws that hold all the others together. This is intrinsically linked to a cat's overall well-being. So as I talk about the 4 paws independently throughout this webinar, a point to note is they're not independent. They are all connected. They are all interlinked. They all overlap. And there isn't really an element where you can say, whatever we talk about falls into just one category, into just one paw. It's not that linear. It's not that cut and dry. What I've tried to do is to break it down into the 4 paws so that we can understand if we're dealing with a problem with our cat, whether that's behavioral, which is the symptom that presents itself, we can try to look at the other elements, the other paws, and see actually, is it a behavioral thing or is there an emotional cause? And basically it's another way to try to understand our cats. So for me, this is the most important one, and it connects all of the others. If your cat doesn't have good mental health, you've more than likely got problems. Now, I've put here a definition of mental health, and obviously it's it's for humans, but I think some of the points are really valid. So mental health is a state of well-being in which an individual realizes his or her own abilities, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively, and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. So, okay, maybe the last part doesn't really align with cats, can work productively and is able to make a contribution to their community. But the first part and the middle are absolutely spot on. So if you think about cats, if they can't cope with the normal day-to-day stress of their life, of being a cat, we're going to have issues. We're going to have problems. And I don't really think people are aware of cats' mental health, because when people contact me and they say they've got, a problem behavior, they try to change the cat's behavior. And that's one of the things that isn't necessarily the way to solve the problem or to solve their problem. And actually what I try to help the guardians to understand is they may have a problem with the behavior, but it's usually 9 times out of 10 a perfectly normal cat behavior. It's just the human has an issue with it. It's causing the human some form of frustration, annoyance, discomfort, irritability, whatever it may be. Now, don't get me wrong, if you've got a cat that's urinating around the house, that cat doesn't have good mental health because they are stressed and they are struggling. But what they are doing is showing you there is a problem. So with mental health in cats, it can be really hard to identify there is an issue until you have big flashing lights that say there is a problem, there is a problem. Now, that could be over grooming. And like I said, it could be inappropriate toileting. It could be really aggressive behaviors. It could be harmful behaviors. That, the list is endless. But because cats are a predator and prey animal, they hide issues really well. They hide pain tremendously well, which is always a worry. And when it comes to mental health, they are very, very resilient, but they're also very sensitive. And I know that seems like a bit of a contradiction, but they can cope with change. They can cope with, changes in their environment, but there are particular ways to do it to help support the cat. As humans, I don't know about you, some of us deal terribly with change. Others just go head on into it and just run at it. We're all different, and cats are exactly the same. So with mental health for cats, a key form of supporting their mental health is enrichment. And, there are various forms of enrichment. So I've got some images as we go through the slides to talk about, we're talking heights and toys and play, but enrichment really can be something that is almost pushed to the sideline. So some people think if you've got a litter tray, you're feeding your cat, they've got either access indoors or outdoors, or if they're in, they're in the house and they're safe, that's enough. And it's not enough. You know, there is always more we can do for our cats, always. Whether you've got 6 scratching posts and 3 cat trees, you know, you've got shelves all around your room, there is always more you can do. And I don't necessarily mean add another scratching post, but it could be bring in some cat grass, put down a herb garden, try a new type of toy. You know, the list is endless. What I'm saying is you're never done. There's always ways to improve and always ways to support your cat. So like humans, they get bored, you know, so leaving toys down in the house, it's not great, because they're going to walk past it and be like, oh yeah, it's the fish, great, you know. So when people talk about having a baby and, you know, putting toys out and putting them back in the toy box and getting them at certain times, that's really effective for cats. It's really, really great technique to use for them. So I'm going to come on to enrichment a little bit more when we talk about the physical paw. But the last few points I wanted to mention about mental health is that in order for the cat to exhibit normal cat behaviors, we need to understand the type of cat that they are. And I've put they in bold. I don't generally bold a lot of things when I'm talking and doing teaching, but for me, this mental health paw is really related to each individual cat. It's not about generalization. It's not about saying, you know, all cats do this under a lovely umbrella. It's not that straightforward. I can't tell you what can cure mental health or what can provide good mental health for cats. What I can tell you is there are some suggestions to try with your cat, but ultimately what you need to do is decide if it works for your cat. So, you know, Leo and Pickle, just, you know, the 2 cats I've had experience of in my adult life that I've been the guardian of, completely different cats, completely. You know, Leo is very timid. You know, he was previously feral. He will run and hide when the doorbell rings. So he has got to be relaxed. He's got to feel safe in order for him to play and to have fun and to feel joy. Now, Pickle, she never really wanted to play, even when she was younger. You know, she was very aloof, always a bit on the chunky side. And she just wanted cuddles. Hey, that was fine with me. I was more than happy to give and receive those. So she was never really bothered about people ringing the doorbell, but she wouldn't trust anyone. She wouldn't have contact from anyone but me. And at the time, you know, later on, my husband. So she would stay in the room, whereas Leo will go and hide. So just with those 2 cats, let alone the billions of cats that are in the world, every single cat is different, just like every human. And that's the message that I really hope is a takeaway for you guys from this webinar, that I can talk to you about tools and techniques and approaches and perspectives, but ultimately the best thing you can do is understand your cat or cats if you've got more than one. Understand their different types, their different personality, their different needs. Do they like to play? Are they not really bothered? Do they like to watch, you know, the outside? Do they like to go outside if that's appropriate for your situation? Do they like to have cuddles with you? Are they not a physical contact type of cat? Because when we push those boundaries of an individual cat, that's when we get issues. So if you've got a cat that you are desperate to cuddle, and they don't appreciate or they won't receive physical touch, you're pushing that boundary into anxiety, into stress, into worry, into fear in extreme situations. So this is where, you know, the individual needs of the cat and their mental health is completely connected. Because if you're not aware of what a specific cat needs, you don't know how to provide for them. And if you do, and obviously we all start from a place of doing what we think is right. And that's the best you can. But the more you get to know a cat, the more you can be aware of how they react to certain circumstances and situations and what they need. So mental health is about, you know, letting a specific cat exhibit behaviors that is good and appropriate for them. And it's also about allowing them to be able to deal with the day-to-day. So Leo is a cat that runs and hides, and we make sure that we've got space for him to do that. And where I've put on the bottom of the slide here about species appropriate environment and resources, Leo's not particularly one for hikes. He's not really that bothered about being up high to watch things. He'd rather hide away until he feels safe, and then he will come out. So have a think about the type of cat you either have or that you're working with potentially, and have a think about what it is that they need to feel safe. So feeling safe is at the core of a cat's, environment. As with humans, we need to feel safe, we need to feel loved, we need to feel connected, and it's exactly the same for cats. They need to feel safe, they need to feel love, and they do thrive on connection, which we'll talk about when we come to emotional pull later on. They're not aloof. Okay, maybe some cats are, but generally speaking, they do need the three things like humans do. We are complicated beings, as are cats. And when we group them into this banner of they're really aloof and they can be left for hours and stuff, it's just not true. So mental health is really about being able to allow your cat to exhibit natural behaviors, have everything they need in their environment to do those natural things. But the crux of it is about understanding each individual cat and knowing how you can support them. Okay, paw 2, physical health. This is probably, the most talked about paw. This is the most common perspective, I think, that people have for cats. It's about looking at what do they need in their environment. So first point I'm going to come to is indoor and outdoor. There is no right or wrong. I don't know, not everyone agrees with that, but ultimately it needs to be right for what is, for goodness sake, needs to be what is right for you and your cat. So if you live in a flat that's, 12 floors up, not probably ideal to, want to have an outdoor cat. You might then decide to put them on a lead and train them with that and walk them. Who knows? The options are endless. You can have a hybrid where you've got cats that go, like the picture here, we've got Buddy and his catio, so he's not quite roaming free because it's illegal in the country that he's in, but also he's not stuck indoors. He does have access to fresh air. So indoor or outdoor, there is no right or wrong. It's whatever it feels right for you. And if you decide, whichever one you decide, you still need to consider enrichment. So remember I said to you, enrichment plays back to mental health. And, we've got an outdoor cat. Leo's an outdoor cat. He's got a cat flap in our downstairs spare room. So he can come and go as he pleases when it's open. We shut it at about 6:30 at night, or in the winter whenever the light goes, because we don't like him being out in the dark. And again, in the mornings it will be open when there's daylight. So he has access to roam outside. We're back onto some lovely local woods, so he's got a menagerie of enrichment outside, but I still need to have enrichment for him inside. I can't rely on the fact that when he's outside he fulfills all his needs. So we have toys, we have fish, we have wands, we have mutilated cardboard boxes, we have a cat tree, we have all sorts. And there are times when, like today, it's been particularly rainy, the weather's been bad. Bless his little heart, he's looked out the windows, so he's been so forlorn and he needs to play. So regardless of indoor or outdoor, there is still an element of enrichment. There is always more to do. Bring in cat grass, put down a herb garden, change the toys, get a new shaped cardboard box, move the cat tree, do something to enrich them and their environment, to stimulate their mental health. So with physical health, we also need to think about diet and nutrition. Now, this is not a webinar about cat food. I have a separate one of those that you can watch on replay. For me, I don't believe in dry food, and I'm not going to get into the pros and cons of everything this evening. There is a time and a place for that. What I would say is our cats are obligate carnivores and they need animal protein to thrive. So regardless of what you feed your cat, I would always advise you consider the effect of their diet on their nutrition and their health. That's the bottom line. So if you feed dry, wet, or raw, or a combination therein, it doesn't really matter. It's about how well is the cat. What effect is the food having on the cat? And there is an element there to think about short-term effect and long-term effect, because some things, for example, disease will manifest over time. Feeding your cat a certain type of food that may seem fine now may lead to long-term health issues. So educate yourself. Learn about what is good for a cat. And also there are other considerations when it comes to diet and nutrition. What can you afford? What can you get hold of? You know, when I work with a client in the UK, I can recommend brands that we use because we're able to get them here. But when I'm talking to my client in Costa Rica, it's not as easy because she can't get what I can get. So, you know, it's understanding what is available to you. But educate yourself is one of my key takeaways for you for this paw, because the nutrition and the food that we feed our cats will affect them later in life. You know, that's just science. The same with humans. You know, if I was eating McDonald's for weeks or months on end, that's going to have a knock on to my health later on. And equally, if I'm just eating, you know, stubs of broccoli every day, that's still not going to do me any good. You know, you have to have a balanced diet, and so do our cats. So it's about everything in moderation. It's about understanding their nutritional needs. They are carnivores. They thrive on animal protein. So I'll give you an example of what we feed Leo. And, you know, this is only my experience. So we feed Leo raw. We feed 2 different brands of raw food. And he has 3 meals a day. So morning, sort of like 4 o'clock-ish, and then about 7 o'clock. But at between 12 and 1, he gets a little treat. So at the moment, we're trialing a new brand of beef meatballs, animal made, you know, specific, just as like a little kind of mouse's worth, if you like, of food. So cats are usually eat little and often. You know, they're not kind of biologically wired to have 1 meal or even 2 meals, you know, 3 meals at best. So I always say to clients 3 to 4, if you can manage it, little and often. I try really hard not to talk more about diet and nutrition. So just educate yourself, I would say. I think their website is catinfo.org, I think, is a brilliant site which talks about feline nutrition. I'll make sure that I add that into the follow-up email for everyone. Let me just make a note of that. Just so you've got the right information. But educate yourself. Find sources of information that you trust. If you Google anything, you'll find opposing views. If you ask what color the sky is, someone will say blue and someone will say some form of green. You know, someone will say black and someone else will say white. It's always the way. So my suggestion or my recommendation is to find people that you trust and then use their information. And if it doesn't feel quite right, research a little bit more. Ask friends and family that you trust. Ask communities that you trust. There are ways to find out information and to find out the right information for you. So nutrition and diet are really key because, like I said, if you feed a good diet and the animal and the cat thrives on it now, it's going to help them as they go later into life as well. So we need to think about the management of illness and aging, because just like us humans, cats get a bit slower and the body doesn't work as well. My dear cat Pickle, she was so old and for so long, which I didn't quite realize until we got Leo, and he was 1.5, and he was a complete shock to the system because he was so full of energy, didn't quite know what to do with myself. But it made me realize just how old she was, you know. And we put little steps up to the chair, we put little steps up to the bed. We realized that she liked to go into blankets, and again I realized after the fact that she was probably suffering from feline cognitive dysfunction disorder. So she didn't like a lot of noise, she didn't like a lot of light, she was always under the blanket, and it was hard to see now I look back on it how much we needed to adapt the house for her. But again, it's something to think about. So what age is your cat right now? What age of cats are you working with? If you're looking to do, you know, if you're working with cats as part of your job, what do they need to support their physical wellness? Do they need steps? Do they need supplements? Do they need additional nutritional requirements? You know, do they need quiet space? Do they need time away? Equally, if they're young and full of beans, do you need to up your game with the playing? You know, do you need to get some automated toys? Do you need to get some electronic toys? What does your cat need? How old are they? What are their requirements today, tomorrow? What are their requirements right now? And is there anything that you can think of that you can do in preparation? You know, are you aware of, you know, the fact that you've got quite a high bed? Do you need to sort of keep an eye out for when they start to be a little bit slower? Then's the time to put the steps in place, not when it's been 3 or 4 months and they're not been on the bed for a while. You know, try to think ahead. Think about where your cat is in its life stage and what support do they need. So I've put here about adequate rest and time to heal, and that doesn't just go for older cats. So, you know, there is the kind of infamous information about cats that cats sleep 12 to 15 hours a day. And that really varies per cat. Leo does not sleep for that long. You know, he will sleep with us. Like I said, he'll usually go to bed with us at about 9-10 o'clock. And then we're up at, I don't know, 6-7. Couldn't tell how many hours that is. Maths isn't my strong point. And he might have an hour or two sleep during the day, but generally speaking, he's not asleep for long periods. He likes to watch what's going on. But he does need time to rest and heal. And my grandmother always said to me that our body heals when we sleep. So sleep is really important to them. It's important you don't disturb them. It's important that they have quiet places that they can retreat. So majority of cats, you know, are kind of like introverts and humans. They need time away to recharge their batteries. They need time away to rest and heal. And even if you've got a really confident or bolshy cat, or, you know, one that's kind of got a bit of swagger, you know, they still need time to rest and heal. They still need downtime because they're energetic beings. So, and I'll come on to this when we talk about the next 2 paws, but they need to recharge their own energy, and they also need to dispel the energy that they pick up from us, from the house, from the humans. So it's like with a baby. If you've got a sleeping cat, don't go poking them and stroking them. Let them be. Let them rest, let them heal. And when they're awake and they're ready to receive contact and they want to communicate with you and connect with you, dive straight in, you know, face plant them, whatever it is that you need to do to connect with them. But try to respect that they need sleep just like we do. So health checks, these are really important. And I think it's something that we're all probably aware of when you get a new cat, you know, whether the rescue centre says it or you've got a kitten and you're like, oh yeah, great. Yep, do that. When was the last time any of us did a health check on our cat? I mean, I must admit, it wasn't until we went to the vets last week with Leo, I was like, I'm going to do a few checks of my own on him. You know, that's probably been months. But it's always a good idea to just even sort of subconsciously keep a check on them. So when you're having a stroke, you know, and you're enjoying the cuddles, try to draw yourself into the present moment and notice, are there any lumps and bumps? You know, does anything feel a bit tight, hard, unusual? You know, has their coat changed? Is it a bit more, you know, is it a bit lackluster? Is it a bit sticky? Try to be aware of what they're doing for themselves in terms of, are they cleaning themselves? Are they a little bit slower eating their food? So health checks and body condition kind of go hand in hand. So again, if you know your cat really well, whether you've had them for 3 months, 3 years, whatever, if you know your cat, you can be alert and you can be aware if something goes wrong. Because ultimately, when it comes to physical health and physical wellness, it's not until there's a problem that potentially we start to investigate and be aware of their physical health. You know, if you've been feeding your cat the same food for years, why not have a look and check the ingredients, do a bit of research, see if it's the right thing for them? You know, if you've been doing X with your cat for X amount of time, is it still appropriate for them? Have a think. You know, have a quick check in their ears the next time you're having cuddles, or if they'll let you, you know, lift up their lip and check their teeth condition. I was going to say, and claws, thank you. Yeah, I'll get onto that in just a second. Thank you, Katie. When I say lift up their gums and check their teeth, just be cautious. Not every cat will tolerate that. And I don't want people to get scratched or bitten. So only do it if the cat is approachable and will let you do it. But there are other checks that you can do. Excuse me. So for example, claws, you know, are they getting hooked in things? Pickle, she would frequently get her claws stuck. And when we went to the vets for a checkup, we would get the tips, just the tips ever so gently taken off with cutters. We tried it once or twice and it was an absolute car crash. So we got the vet to do it. It was safer, it was easier for everyone involved. And if I knew then what I know now, I would have approached it a completely different way. But it can be quite stressful to cats. It might be easier to do it at the vets. So are their claws getting stuck in things? Have you got the right capacity to now allow them to sharpen their claws, to take the sheaths off their claws? You know, what are you doing for claw maintenance almost? You know, I'm sure before COVID, people like manicures, pedicures. Cats are the same. They need support in that area as well. So then we're going to talk about energy, excuse me, and weight management. So again, very much linked to diet and nutrition, but also about playtime. So playtime is something that I think a lot of people will put in the physical health, physical paw. And it's not just that. Yes, it helps with weight management. Yes, it can help to burn energy, but it's more than that. It's the joy that they feel. It's, you know, I'm not a gym person myself, but when people go to the gym, they get the happy hormones released, you know, the endorphins and things. It's exactly the same for cats. It's those feel-good chemicals that come into their body. So as I mentioned before, even if you've got an outdoor cat or a cat that's got access to indoors and outdoors, have a think about if you've got capacity to play with them. Now, cats don't play for a long time, you know, they do, even regardless of age, to be fair. Kittens to older cats, it's usually short, sharp bursts, you know, 15-20 minutes, maybe 30, but they need time to rest in between. So put your phone down, put your iPad down, shut the computer screen, maybe mute the TV, and just see if you can be present with your cat to play with them for a minute. Some cats like wand toys, you know, there are a whole host of different toys out there, but actually playing with your cat is such a great bonding experience. And it's a great way to build your relationship with them, to build trust with them. And then finally, we've got here about joint care and protection and the play and prey behaviors. So again, linked to play. And joint care and protection is almost, again, like we mentioned, about diet and nutrition, but it's also about the age of the cat. So physical health is really about in the moment now. Where are they? What do they need? What is their condition? What can you do to help them to thrive right now? But it's also about prevention, and it's also about management as they age. So as humans, you know, we probably slow down a little, but we still need to keep moving, you know, but our exercise format may change. It's the same with cats. It might be that they can't go and run up and down the dining room for the balls anymore. It might be that a wand toy is better in a smaller area for them. So just have a think about where your cat is, you know, physically with its health and its age, and see what you need to think about in terms of supporting that cat. Okay, here come my two favorite paws. So emotional well-being. According to Psychology Today, the definition of emotional well-being is the ability to practice stress-free management techniques to be resilient and generate the emotions that lead to good feelings. So I don't know about you, but this, I was like, oh, that is just so good for cats, so true for cats. And I don't think people are aware of this again at all. I think we're not always switched on to the fact that, like I said, play is actually a really good mental health paw, physical paw, and emotional paw. You know, this one activity ticks all those boxes. So how can you afford not to do it if you've got, you know, if 10 minutes of your time helps your cat in all these different ways? So why do we need to bother? Why do we even need to consider a cat's emotional well-being? And I know that when I start to talk about this on social media, there'll be people that will be absolutely scoffing at me and, you know, laughing and probably potentially being, you know, a bit aggressive or abusive about it. But I don't care. This is one of the most passionate paws that I have. You know, this is where my mission comes in, because it's about helping people to understand that cats do have emotional needs. And when we're not considering them, this is where we lead to unstable mental health, which leads to problem behaviors, etc. So I've listed here a couple of, you know, problems that cats can deal with if they're not emotionally stable. And obviously emotional well-being, for me, emotional well-being and mental health are connected. It's like the little infinity symbol, you know, like an 8 on the side. You can't have one without the other. They are intrinsically connected, as is for humans, as is for cats. So if we're not aware of our cat's emotional state, if we don't provide for their emotional needs, then we're potentially going to have a situation where we're dealing with well, one or more of this list. So anxiety, fear, stress, aggression, self-harming behavior, dangerous behavior, so particularly aggressive cats, or, you know, reactive cats, or dis-ease, so, you know, an illness in the body. Because with humans, when we experience chronic stress, it can lead to high blood pressure, heart issues, etc. Exactly the same for cats. So whereas, you know, with humans, poor diet can lead to like obesity and maybe diabetes, same with cats. Obesity, diabetes, bad diet, all connected. Same with cats with emotional well-being. No capacity to practice stress management techniques, you've got an over-grooming cat, or you've got a cat that's weeing around the house. And these are the symptoms, you know, over-grooming and inappropriate urination, particularly aggressive. These are symptoms of this issue. That's not the problem. The problem isn't the cat over-grooming. That's a symptom of a problem. The problem is the cat is probably dealing with anxiety or fear, or it has territory issues, which is from fear and anxiety. So this is where we need to look at this early on. This is actually, for me, the most crucial of the paws. Yes, having a litter tray is important. Yes, having a scratching post is important. Don't get me wrong. Resources are important. But if we don't make ourselves aware or share this awareness with others, that cats have emotional needs that need to be met, we are completely doing a disservice for our cats, and they are surviving. And I don't want my cats to survive. I want my cats to thrive. My own cat, my clients' cats, my community's cats. You know, I don't want them to just be day to day ticking on through. You know, why can't we all lead our best lives? You know, we talk about, you know, leaving like the nice toiletries for best, or the cutlery or the crockery or whatever. Why not use that today? Why not live your best life today? Why don't we do that for our cats? You know, bringing in a little bit more of enrichment, trying a new complementary alternative treatment, adding another scratching post, taking time out to be with them and connect with them. All of these things are going to help. And the thing is, for me, emotional well-being, people have said to me, you can't see it. And I disagree. I completely disagree with that. You can absolutely see a cat's emotional state, emotional well-being. You've got to take time to look. And that's what I think people are missing. So like I said before at the beginning, and I'm not slating humans, you know, because we don't know until sometimes we're woken up or we're made aware of, you know, we don't know what we don't know. But when you've got a cat that's over grooming, or is really aggressive to another cat, or is weeing around the house or on your bed, is usually quite common. They're trying to tell you something. They are trying to communicate with you, and they're trying to share with you, I'm struggling, I need help. But it shouldn't have to get to that point. So all the stuff we've talked about up until now, they're all things that you can look at, you can research, you can provide for, to lead to good emotional well-being for your cat. But again, I come back to the point we mentioned right at the beginning, which is it's all about the uniqueness of a cat. So emotional wellness for Leo is completely different to what emotional wellness would have been for Pickle, you know, and that's where you need to think about what is right for your cat. So remember I said to you, I've got a picture of a wall with all the crazy shelves and stuff. Here we go. Wonderful lady who is part of the Naturally Cats community, Tracy, and I'm really grateful because the images of Buddy eating the raw chicken and this one with the shelves is her home and her cats. I would love to do this to my house, and Rob just isn't keen yet. So emotional well-being, you know, I've done the kind of lecture-y bit, but what I wanted to talk about is what can you do? You know, what things can you take away? What help can I give you? So I've put right in the middle, we can't take this paw for granted. So let's have a think about and let's chat about what it is that we can do to provide for our cat's emotional well-being. So you'll see in the list, I'm not going to go through it one by one, but you'll see in the list, I've put a lot of things that are resources. So for example, scratching post, interactive games, spaces to hide, you know, things that are kind of cat known, you know. But what I've also added in here is for example, things that I don't think we're aware of bring emotional well-being to cats. So grooming with a human. Now, not every cat is up for grooming. Again, this is cat specific. Leo does not like a groom, and luckily we're short haired, so he's cool with that. I'm cool with that. Pickle would she had to be in the right mood, but she would take a good groom. And again, if you've got a long-haired cat, as I'm sure the groomers on the webinar would say, you've got to be aware of their health needs with their coat, and what that support that they need with that. There's always the opportunity to do behavior modification to support them with grooming. If you're either new to a cat or you've got a cat that you need to start grooming, don't just dive straight in with a brush and just go at them. Let's not go from fat to fryer here. Let's start off slow, introduce them to the brush, a lot of positive reinforcement, a lot of behavior modification, and a lot of work. Use it as an opportunity to bond with your cat, to help them to feel comfortable, to be aware of their boundaries, read their body language, and notice when they can't cope anymore and it's time to step away. You come back to it another day. But grooming with a human, even if that's with a brush or actually with your hand, it's a really beautiful bonding experience. And we're going to come on to a bit about acupressure when we talk in a minute about the spiritual paw. So I've also put in here about botanical remedies, a herb garden. And again, I'll cover a little bit of this in the next paw. But if you're new to Naturally Cats and you're new to what I do, I would love, part of one of my missions, I have several, like I said, no small dream. I want to have a herb garden in every home. I want people to realize that having a herb garden is just a resource as a scratching post and a litter tray. Because by having a herb garden down, you are giving the cat the tool to manage their own emotional well-being. So if you've got a fearful cat, they can go and run and hide in a hideaway spot. That's giving them a tool to cope with their emotional state because they're in fear and they need to hide away. If you've got a cat that's frustrated, how do they deal with that? If you've got a herb garden down, which is a blanket or a pillowcase, for example, on the floor, and you put, dried herbs or flowers in each corner. If you've got, for example, a couple of herbs down like chamomile, which is calming, valerian, which usually can be soothing, and for example, like rose, which is really nurturing, they've got the capacity to go and use those herbs and enjoy that, the essence of the herbs and the healing properties themselves. So you have it down all the time, you leave it down for a week, you top it up or you change it over every now and again. You can try different herbs, but basically, before cats were artificially domesticated, they were out in the wild, they're out amongst plants and flowers and things, and they can do this for themselves. This isn't a newfangled technique that I'm talking about here. This is, science for them, eons of years ago. Okay, excuse me. A lion might not go up and rub against a rose bush, but even cats in the wild would have access to different forms of, a chemical way to deal with their emotional state. And what we're doing is we're bringing that into the home for our domesticated cats. So we're giving them an opportunity to cope with their frustration, their irritability, their sadness sometimes. And also it brings joy. So I love to see a good cat rolling around, as you can see Raphael here, rolling and rubbing around on a herb garden. I say to put a blanket or a pillowcase down. It kind of looks pretty, but also to protect your carpet a little, because herbs can get really messy. Now, not all cats go crazy. And actually, it's probably, for me, in my experience in the last few years, a little more unusual. A lot of cats I know will sit, as you can just kind of see in the bottom picture, the cat to the left. A lot of cats will just sit quite calmly, either on or near the herbs, because they're so energetic, the herbs and the cats. And even I've had clients who've shared pictures with me of when they've had put the packets down and the cats will just sit near the packets because the energy of and the vibration of that herb is enough for them. So, if we can give our cats joy, why wouldn't we? If we can give our cats a tool to deal with the day-to-day of living with us, why wouldn't we? We're on phone, and I mean like pre-COVID, right? We were on phones and we've got the TV on and we're sorting the kids and the husband and the wife and the partner and the oodles of things that go on in our brains and all the things that we have to do. And whether we know it or not, that comes out of us, that emanates from us. And I'm going to come on to energy in a minute. Excuse me. So our cats live with all that. And if you've got an indoor cat, they can't get away from that. So how can we help them? You know, a herb garden is a great way to do that. So I've got herb gardens on my website, www.naturallycats.co.uk. You know, I've done the hard work. I've put all the gardens together. So I've got one that helps with anxiety. I've got one that helps with aggression or with pain, because you can use it for physical support as well. So I've put in here about physical movement. You know, we talked last paw and the paw before. See, do you get the pattern? They're all connected. They are all really, really connected. So physical movement and play activity with your cats, fabulous. Great time for them. You might actually get a chuckle out of it too. Sometimes when I see Rob playing with Leo, oh, it just warms my heart, because Rob's laughing. Leo's done some like really weird, like little baby deer bounce over something. It's hilarious. And it's so great to watch. And then the last point I'm going to highlight here are connection and awareness. So when we're feeling a bit crap, or when we've had a really bad day, you know, we need a hug, you know, and sometimes a really good cry, or maybe a glass of wine, you know, whatever floats your boat. But our cats have similar experiences. So they might have had a day where the neighborhood cat's been chasing them quite a lot and they're feeling really het up. Or they might have been in the house all day and one of the kids just won't shut up, you know, and that cat needs to cope. It needs to cope with all of that. So as I mentioned before, you know, connection, awareness, and love, these are things that our cats need as well, and they are linked to their emotional health. Okay, my favorite is 4. Spiritual connection. So you may or may not believe in this. And if you don't believe in it, that's fine. But I would say quite categorically that you're wrong. I'm not usually that bold in my statements. But have you ever walked into a room and thought, oh my goodness, because someone's just had an argument and you're like, oh, you just like want to slowly back out and pretend that they didn't see you and that you're not in the room? That's energy. That's energy. And everything is made of energy. So the cat bed here with Leo, you know, my crystal, my computer, you know, I don't know about you guys, but I sometimes hear like the off my phone, you know. Yeah. So it's all energy, all of it, let alone chakras and auras and, you know, the kind of quantum side of spiritual energy. I'm not going to get too deep, don't worry. But everything is made of energy. Cats are no different. Just because they're cats, just because they have 4 paws, just because they meep or meow rather than speak English or French or whatever, it doesn't matter. It's exactly the same. So they have the capacity to soak up energy. Have you ever been poorly and your cat's come and sat with you and you're like, because I don't normally sit on my lap? Or, you know, Bobby's never really a cuddly cat and yet he sat on my shoulder, you know? They are aware of energy and emotions, and even the most aloof of cats will be able to feel and sense energy and emotions. Now, whether a cat has a balanced mental and emotional state depends on what they can pick up. So if you've got a cat in a rescue that is petrified, you know, that is trembling and too fearful to move, they're not going to be able to receive energy because they are completely at capacity. They are overloaded with stress, anxiety, worry, fear. They are reverberating, you know, stress. So they can't take in anything else. So in that moment, it's our duty to help to calm that down, to help them to cope. But day to day, with your cat in your home, there'll be moments when, you know, you and your partner or you yourself, you've had a good day, you're feeling great, your energy is really good and you're buzzing and you've achieved something or something brilliant's happened and you feel good. And the cats are like really playful and bouncy and, you know, the house is kind of buzzing. And then there'll be other times when you've had a really crap day and you just want to hide under your duvet and not speak to anyone and shut the world away and have a good cry or, you know, punch a pillow or whatever the mood may take. And they'll pick up on that too. So for me, I want to share with you, and I really want to bring awareness to the fact that our energy affects them, whether we know it or not, whether we mean it to or not. I'm not saying consciously that we erupt or expel our energy, it happens subconsciously, it happens energetically, you know, it happens on a deeper level. But what I want you to think about is when you've had that crap day or you've had that good day, how are you showing up to your cat? Now, I'm going to use the example of a bad day because that's more of a kind of a situation where I think we need to be aware of. So if I've had a bad day, there are times when I want a hug from my husband, but there are other times I don't really want to speak to my husband and I just want to sit with the cat, you know. And like I said, Leo's not particularly cuddly. We've had him for 2 years. Hang on a second, I should put my power cable on. We've had him for 2 years and he is becoming more and more cuddly. I mean, I've been having lap cuddles occasionally recently, but he can always take physical touch. So there are times when we go to stroke him and, you know, if this is him, he will slink, you know, as your hand goes down, the body goes down and it, yeah, completely like, oh, no, thank you. And I need to respect that. You know, he doesn't want physical touch. He can't receive physical touch from me. But when it's been a bad day and, you know, you want that comfort, that's not what they're there for. And it's hard to register that. It's hard to realize that they are not our mechanisms for soothing. They are beings who we have asked to live with us. They are not there for our pleasure. They are not there for our needs. If we have a moment where we can connect with them and they can receive us or we can receive them, amazing, beautiful. But that's not always the case. And if we push that, we push their boundaries, we force physical touch, it's going to damage the relationship. So if you've got a cat that, you know, you're desperate to have cuddles with, they're going to feel that and they're not going to be interested. It's like with humans, right? Not everyone's a hugger. You know, you don't go and force someone a hug if they don't want it, do you? Well, hey, maybe you do, I don't know. but we generally, you know, socially speaking, you don't do that. And it's no different for cats, in my opinion. So I believe that cats are like little sponges. I believe that they can soak up our emotions. And I believe this is where we have an even more of a duty to be aware of their emotional needs, you know. So if you have had a bad day and you want some cuddles and you pick the cat up and you have a squidge and they're not keen, put them down, but be grateful for the moment that you had. But more so if you can maybe be cognizant of the fact that, are they able to receive me? That's something I don't think we're asking ourselves enough. Are they able to receive me? Oh, it's just a cat, but I stand by it. Are they able to receive me? And there are times when Leo wants to play or connect, and it's really inconvenient for me. You know, I've had a really busy day. I've been on calls all day. I just want to watch my box set or, you know, check out Facebook on my phone, or whatever. And he's sat on the arm of the sofa and he's like, you know, mummy, meeping. And he's like, meep. Or he does this really cute thing where he yawns and then he meeps and it's just like, oh, bud, you just broke my heart there a little. But, you know, I make a choice, right? I can ignore him. I can push him off the edge of the sofa, at which point he normally sits on the footstool and huffs. Yes, the cat huffs, you know, he's like, I'm like, okay, I feel super guilty now. Or I can be like, I will dig deep and find a little reserve of energy, find a couple of granules from my sparkle jar and play with him. Because do you know what? If I can do 10 minutes, it's going to really lift his spirits and it'll probably actually lift my spirits as well. So are they able to receive me? But also, what can I do for them? It's not always convenient having a cat. Fully accept that, fully, completely get behind that statement. It is not always convenient having a cat. I did not want a dead little mouse yesterday or a vole from Leo as a gift. I'd much rather have a leaf or, like, you know, a beautiful petal of a flower or something. but no. So it's always swings and roundabouts. It's always highs and lows. And sometimes when things are low, it can be really hard. When they're ill, we're really worried. But when they're well and they're playful, it's amazing. So with the spiritual connection, I stand firm in my belief that cats are sentient, cats are emotional, and cats are energetic beings. And also, I again told you I don't really bold very much, but they're social beings. So this for me is a misconception that people say, you know, oh, cats are really aloof and oh, they're not like dogs, they can be left alone. No, 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 no. That is not the case, peeps. As I've said to you a couple of times now, they need love, they need acknowledgement, and they need connection. Now, your cat might not want contact all the time. It might not want to be around people all the time. Remember I said to you, they do need to sleep, they do need to heal, but they are social beings. And again, I don't necessarily mean they all like to live in multi-cat homes. Katie on the call this evening, great example of a positive association multi-cat home. Gorgeous example, textbook example, love it. You know, they all sleep together and they play together. It's beautiful. That's actually quite uncommon. You know, she's got a bit of gold dust there in her home because that's not very common. So although cats are social beings, they don't always do well in social living environments where there are more than 1 or 2 cats. But again, multi-cat homes, whole other webinar. But just be aware of your cat, okay? I'm going to come back to, I feel like a bit of a broken record for this webinar, but it's true. What does your cat need? How does your cat survive? How does your cat cope? So Leo, I'd have no chance of having another cat. Like I said, he's very fearful. He is not very confident in himself, and we are working on all of that to support him. But ultimately, that's the way he is, and I'm not going to change that. He hears the doorbell and he runs because flight is his default mechanism, and you don't change the default mechanisms. You can support them, but you can't change them. So cats are social beings, and when it comes to energy and their connection with us, this is the best bit. This is the best bit about having a cat, that you can see them and be aware of them and actually see them in a different way to other people. You know, it's like a secret. And it's like a really kind of, it's a secret that I want to shout from the mountaintops, but it's, you know, it's not new news, but it's something that I'm not sure everyone's aware of. Because when you start to respect your cat and you start to appreciate their boundaries, your relationship with them will change. Trust me, I've seen it, and I've helped to do it with families. You know, when you understand, if you've got a sleeper cat or a hidey cat or an up high cat, and you start to provide for that, you also notice their physical connection, they will start to trust you more. And that in itself will help your relationship to blossom. So I shared something on my Talk Tuesday today when we were live at 2:00. This morning, Leo came in and I was just coming out of the bedroom and he was on the landing, and I went to stroke him and he went to do the slinky thing, but he didn't. He went actually down on his side and he showed me his tummy. And we're just getting to the point where we are. In the last couple of months, we've been seeing if he's open to tummy touch or not. Again, I'm not just kind of like, you know, going in and giving his tummy a ruffle. It's all very slow and it's very measured. And I went to stroke him because normally if you stroke around his collar, he will let you stroke down his side. Now, not on his tummy, but the tips of your fingers kind of go towards the inside of his tummy. And I went to do it and I thought, oh no, I don't think he wants it. And I just actually I stood on the landing, looked, bent down on, you know, so I was a bit lower, and just said, thanks, bud. You know, and I was just really grateful in that moment that he decided to show me trust by showing me his tummy and lying down, you know, chilled out next to me. And I just, and I don't know, there's almost a sense of reverence to see him be relaxed with me. And that I don't think I value enough. I don't, you know, I'm always aware of, like I said, sort of working on our behavior, our relationship, or, you know, yada, yada, yada. And in that moment, I just thought, I'm so grateful for you. So grateful that you were there to be able to show me that you trust me. Thank you. So the spiritual connection is almost like the opposite of mental health. You know, mental health is above all of them and spiritual connection is under all of them. You know, that's the bits that bring the others together. Because when you've got a cat who is grounded and balanced and healthy, the spiritual connection blossoms. And that's where your relationship with your cat can go to the next level. So here I've got some examples of different forms of treatments to support a spiritual connection. So one thing to say is the information that I've put here does not replace veterinary care in any way, shape, or form. If you've got any health concerns with your cat, always seek advice from a veterinary professional. And if you're interested in trying any complementary or alternative treatments, do it alongside your veterinary care. You know, always integrate your treatments and your professionals together. Any person who does any form of complementary or alternative treatment should align with your vet in terms of communication about the animal and about the cat. So they may not agree on their perspective or approach. That's okay. But it is helpful to work together with everyone to have that holistic approach to care. That's just a bit of a caveat for everybody. So here we've got different treatments. Some are energy related. In fact, most of them are energy related, and others are physical. So where I've put CAM treatments, that stands for complementary and alternative medicine. So there's a great website. I'm not sure, excuse me, if you're aware of it, CAM for animals, CAM, the number 4 animals.com, or it might be .co.uk. I'll check that and put it in the follow-up email. They have so much information about different treatments and modalities that you can use with animals. They've got blogs, they've got practitioners, they've got all sorts. If you haven't checked out CAM for Animals, you definitely should do. Yes, you'll see a blog or two from Naturally Cats because I heavily believe in what they're doing. They are raising awareness of CAM treatments for animals and how effective they can be. So with the pictures we've got here, we've got Mitzi enjoying an amethyst heart at the top, and oh my dear sweet baby girl Pickle having some Reiki at the bottom. So there are so many different forms of treatment that you can try, and if you can do it for humans, you can probably do it for cats, is what I'm going to say. You know, the list I've put here are those that I know of. I'm sure there's more. I'm sure there is. So, you know, I do self-selection with cats. You know, the herbs we mentioned before, you know, that also encompasses dried powders, macerated oils, hydrosols, essential oils, you know, the whole shebang, you know, different formats and different ways you can get a plant. We deal with it with self-selection. The key thing there is about giving the cat a choice. And that, again, that aligns with all the paws that we've talked about. You don't force physical contact onto your cat. You don't force your cat to be a certain way, to do a certain thing. It's about giving the cat a choice, which ultimately gives them a voice. And I'm not intending to rhyme. But self-selection is about giving them a choice. And for me, all the ones below are the same. So if you're going to use flower remedies, if you're going to try acupuncture or massage, ask your cat. You know, anybody that's in a healing diploma will know that it's all about permission. Reiki's all about permission. Crystals, all about permission. You don't force anything onto the cat. You wouldn't like it forced on you, so why would they? It's exactly the same. They have the right to choose. They deserve the right to choose. So if you want to work with crystals, offer them, put them down on a mat, put them down on your bed. You know, don't just go and plonk a crystal on your cat, because you could be doing more damage or more harm than good. And, you know, who knows what their reaction is going to be to that. So acupressure, I just want to highlight that because I talked before when we were looking at the health conditions about cats. So there's a couple of really good books. One's called AcuCat and the other is called, hang on, 4 Paws, 5 Directions. So thank you, Katie, as held up in the video below. I will put the 2 in the email. And there's a couple of others. So I'll talk about the workbook in a second and some recommended reading in the workbook. So with acupressure, what I wanted to highlight is when you are doing the body checks or even when you're stroking your cat, notice what you feel. So again, this is going to require you to be present, to be mindful. So just a quick stroke down, you know, I'm talking about a really measured, slow stroke down the body, you know, both sides if you can, and notice if there are any lumps, bumps, hard bits. Now, I'm not, God forbid it's a tumor or something dangerous or something worse, but it could be blocked energy. It could be a blocked acupressure point. But again, it's just to be aware of it, and then you can look at unraveling it and figure out where that's come from or what that's leading to. Animal communication. Oh, I love animal communication. I've recently got back into it after not doing it for years, and I am having such a ball with it. The messages that come through from cats, the energy that comes through is astounding. You know, their messages for us humans. I mean, I think I'm trying to give them a voice at the moment, and some of the stuff that comes through is just so powerful. So if you've never investigated animal communication, I highly recommend it. It is literally, like I was saying before, it's that interspecies interpreter. You know, you ask your cat a couple of questions, the cat communicator should be giving you answers and you know what they've received from the cat, and it's beautiful to understand how your cat's feeling and what's going on with them. So I think that's everything. So before I wrap this up, I mentioned about doing a proven technique to enable you to connect with your cat, and we're going to do it now. So it's something called calm connection, and it basically enables you to come into the moment, to be present, and to be aware. So that sounds really simple, right? I bet you're like, you know, what is that, Julianne? But actually, it's really quite powerful because we are always thinking ahead, always. Even the most mindful of us are always thinking ahead. It is a conscious choice to be present, and it is a conscious choice to be in this moment. And that is not what society wants us to do. It always wants us to think ahead, to think forward, you know. So we're going to do something called the calm connection now. So I want you to get yourselves comfortable. And if possible, put phones on silent. I'm not suggesting you turn them off, but if you just pop them on silent just for a minute so that you can be really present with me. Okay. We're going to start by gently closing our eyes and taking a nice deep breath in and out. Then putting your left hand on your heart. And again, taking a nice deep breath in and out. And then your right hand just below your belly button and your sacral chakra. Deep breath in and out. I want you just to breathe just for a few moments with your eyes closed, your hand on your heart and your hand on your body. Just breathe. Just allow the breath to flow through the body, letting it find its rhythm. And just taking your awareness to any sounds around you. Any sounds in the room or sounds just outside. Just breathe. I want you to bring your awareness inward now and just notice where the breath is in the body. Just notice the breath coming in and the breath going out. Maybe you're aware of the sensations in the nostrils or the rise and fall of the body. Just breathe. Just breathe. And just placing your hands in your lap and opening your eyes when you're ready. There's no rush. So we just took a few moments just to bring our energy inward, to connect to our breath, and to be aware of the moment. So in a minute, I want us to chat about how you feel after that, you know, what difference that's made. But the point of doing the calm connection, it anchors you into the moment. It enables you to almost pause all the noise. And I don't just mean the noise in the room, I mean the noise in the head, sometimes the noise in the body, because sometimes if our body's in pain or reactive, that can also affect our energy. So that took us like not even 2 minutes, you know, and it's just a really simple technique. So it's a deep breath in, left hand on your heart, another deep breath, right hand just below the belly button on the solar plexus, on the sacral chakra, another deep breath, and then it's just a couple of minutes, whatever you can manage, excuse me. So if you can manage 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, but just breathing in that moment will help to just center you and balance you. And that will affect your energies, which will in turn affect your cats. So, you know, we talked about before when you go into a room and you sense that energy from people because they're angry and you're like, oh, I don't want to walk in there. Imagine when you come home from work, what your cats feel when you walk in the room. So I'm just going to leave you with that. So just before I wrap us up, just in case you weren't aware, that Naturally Cats has got a YouTube channel and all of our free webinars are there, so you can catch them. We've got one on cats and grief, cats and cat food, self-selection, anxiety. We've also got the recent one we did with Jen Bluff, who talks about how to deal with compassion fatigue. And there's also a new set of videos that I've put up, which are a lot about cats using self-selection. I haven't shared them on social media yet, but they're all live and they're all up there. They will be coming on social media over the coming weeks. But if you're interested in looking at cats and how to use a herb garden, there's more information there. So subscribe to us on YouTube. And then the prepaid webinars that we've had, so over grooming, aggression, and the workshop with cat chakras and meridians, that's all available to buy on replay for the from the Naturally Cats website. And again, as my glamorous assistant Katie just demonstrated on video, the Aromatic Cat book, which was written with my co-author Nyana Morag. And we talk about how to use botanical remedies with your cat. So how to support them with anxiety and aggression, and how to give them a choice when it comes to using remedies. So on that note, Nyana and I are doing Aromatic Cat Live this coming Saturday. So it's a lovely all-day workshop. And I'm happy to share with you a code to get 10% off the booking price, which is AromaCat 10. So the course is actually held on Nyana's website, which is essentialanimals.com. So you need to book it through there. You will get lifetime access to it. So if you can't make the webinar, you can't make the morning, for example, then don't worry. You can always watch it on replay and you'll have lifetime access to it. So you'll get a copy of the webinar replay and the slides and the workbook, which I'll come on to in just a minute. That'll all be in the follow-up email tomorrow. So just before I wrap this up, this is the way that you can find Naturally Cats. So we're on Facebook and Instagram. We've also got a discussion group on Facebook. So it's just called Naturally Cats Discussion Group. We talk about all sorts in there. We have funny pictures. We've got some, you know, concerns from cat guardians. We also have some really cool graphics shared and, you know, interesting articles. And I go live in there once a month as well. We do a Q&A. So if you've got questions, you can always ask, you know, in the discussion group. Or you can find us with the website, which is www.naturallycats.co.uk. So thank you everyone for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed the webinar.